Everyone, how's it going? My name's Nico. I'm currently a second year medical student. I attended a California community college, and I just want to talk about the process of going from California community college, transferring to a 4 year university, specifically the UCs, and then successfully applying to and getting into medical school. So, the majority of this is going to focus on selecting your courses for transferring to the UC, um, and then generally what you need to do from then on. So the first thing you want to look at, especially if you're just getting started, going to community college, coming out of high school, you're going to want to go over to assist.org. And once you're over on that website, you can put in your institution, so which community college you're going to be going to, and then under agreements with other institutions, you click on that and you can select the schools that you want to transfer to within California. So UCLA, UCSD, for example. And then once you click on that, you'll be at a page which will allow you to select your desired major. And it will show you the exact courses that you need to take at the institution, at your community college, that will satisfy the first and second year requirements for that major at the university you want to transfer to. So at the bottom here, I have an example of that, what you'll be seeing. So on the right hand side are the courses that satisfy the requirements. So we can see here that at this community college, Bio-L M2A, the general biology, will satisfy the requirement for the life science 7A, and I believe this is at UCLA. And then similarly, right below that, we have Bio M2A and Bio M2B, or Bio M2A honors and Bio M2B satisfying life science 7B. And this goes on, and you can go down the entire list, and you can see all the exact courses that you need to take at your institution specifically that will line up with the courses that you would be taking if you were a freshman or a sophomore at the university you'll be transferring to. So these are classes that you'll need to take. You don't need to necessarily finish all of them, although it makes you a more competitive applicant when applying for transfer if you do finish all the freshman and sophomore courses, and it's certainly doable within 2 years. And then beyond assist, the last bullet point I have on here is IGETC. And IGETC is just an acronym. It's essentially an agreement between California community colleges, and the UC schools, and they will tell you all of the required general education courses that need to be taken in order for you to transfer. So assist.org gives you the specific courses that you need for the major that you want to be accepted as at the university. And then IGETC is just generally general ed courses that must be completed prior to transferring. So this is sort of just an aside in regards to getting into medical school, especially within California and to the UCs specifically. It's not necessarily a requirement. I believe it may become, I think, at UCLA, but you got to learn Spanish. So when you ultimately take a language course, which you will when you transfer, or if you somehow find time during your community college experience, you should need to find time to learn Spanish, because it's incredibly important to your application as a medical student applying, or as a college student applying to medical school, to the UCs. We have a very large Spanish-speaking population here, especially at UCLA and UCSD, and it's extremely valued, and it's going to make you a far more competitive applicant. And I would say that it is a requirement, and that you should be striving to learn Spanish. So that's going to be one of the main takeaways from this. So in regards to extracurriculars, so once you've figured out your scheduling and whatnot, while you're in community college, you can find local hospitals and clinics that you can volunteer at. You can find shadowing opportunities to shadow physicians, and also finding non-clinical opportunities. So you might have done this already as a high school student. So just volunteering at local hospitals and clinics, you can do that 4 hours every weekend, which is certainly doable. Which I recommend you do. You should be starting to rack up hours as early as you can. And the earlier you start, the less amount of time you actually have to put into it every week. So 4 hours a week is certainly manageable. And then shadowing, if you can find it. Shadowing is difficult to find. If you have connections, you should use those. You can reach out to hospitals and see if they have any kind of opportunities. If you really can't find anything, and over the next 4 years, you can try and contact your old pediatrician and see if you can shadow your pediatrician. Shadowing is one of the most important components of application to medical school that isn't really mentioned very much. It's something that can make or break your application. So it's something that you should get done and something that you should be keeping in the back of your head. And then non-clinical volunteering you can do over the course of the next 4 years. But again, especially for the UC system, they really like to see non-clinical volunteering. So I would certainly recommend that you get at least 100 hours, but you should really be getting more of that over the next 4 years, or however long you're in university for. So non-clinical volunteering would be something like tutoring, tutoring students. For example, there's a Syrian refugee population in San Diego where I was, and I worked with those students, the young students, tutoring them. So that was something like non-clinical that I did. So that might give you an example of something that's non-clinical. So the summer before you transfer from your community college, you want to start emailing PIs, or principal investigators, for lab positions or other research opportunities. So it doesn't necessarily need to be a wet lab. You don't have to do wet lab research for your research experience to get into medical school. It can be any kind of research that you're interested in, but you should be aiming to get a publication. So you should make that clear with your PIs after you meet with them. But priority is just to email a lot of PIs the summer before you transfer. And see if you can't set up meetings for when you essentially arrive on campus and hit the ground running. This is what I did. I was able to secure a position about a month into my first year at my transfer university, and I was able to work in that lab for about a year. So that was good. And then also just see if you can't find more volunteering options in that summer for when you start. Okay, MCAT. I recommend that everyone at this point take a gap year. It's just the way things are trending. The average age of acceptance is moving up every single year. And the reason I say take a gap year is because what you're going to want to do is you're going to take most likely 2 years at community college, and then you're going to transfer, and then you'll be in your junior year. You're going to find that you'll probably need more time to prepare. And for example, I studied and took my MCAT the summer after my junior year, of university. It gives you 3 full uninterrupted months to study for your MCAT, and it really gives you, I think, the best opportunity to perform well. I've seen too many people try and rush through studying for their MCAT during the school year, and they don't do as well as they could have. There's a lot of resources in regards to studying for the MCAT and when to take it and what to use. I personally like the Kaplan 7 series. That's what I used. There's plenty of videos online in regards to studying for the MCAT, but I recommend you go to the subreddits, premeds, MCAT, for resources and questions like that. Of course, you can leave a comment on here, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you have. But there are certainly a plethora of information online and resources to figure that out. And I just put this here just for completion's sake, just to give you an idea of what a schedule will look like as a community college student and then transferring. So I majored in molecular bio. I still have the default text on here. We're going to ignore that. Whatever donec quis nunc means probably means something in Latin. Anyway, so this is my schedule. And I'm not really going to go through it too much, but you can see freshman and sophomore year was my community college, and junior senior year was the university I transferred to. If you're going to be a bio major, the freshman and sophomore year columns on here are essentially going to be what you're going to be doing, except for I have differential equations and linear algebra in there. That's certainly not a requirement. I took that for some shits and gigs. Anyway, so this is essentially what your schedule could look like. So you can just look at this just for reference when you are sort of coming up with your schedule for your for your community college. So just some key takeaways. I want to make this really clear. Learn Spanish. Please learn Spanish. It's going to help you when you're applying to medical schools in the UC system. It will really put you ahead of people that don't know Spanish. So please do that. Non-clinical volunteering, again, also very important. I put 100 hours minimum on here. It's really just sort of like a rounded number that I just picked out of a hat. You should really be aiming to get as many as you can. So, 200 hours, 250, and it's something that's it's easy to get a lot of hours if you start early. So I recommend starting early, finding non-clinical hours, and just doing the best you can there. But learning Spanish and non-clinical volunteering is very important, as so is clinical volunteering. Clinical volunteering is easier to find, and you can just volunteer at hospitals and at clinics. For example, I volunteered at a physical therapy clinic, which was great. I got to work with patients hands-on, so you can find there's a lot of different opportunities around, especially after you transfer. Email your PIs or email PIs the summer before you transfer. Aim for getting a publication. Have that conversation with your PI after you've already established rapport and have started working in the lab that you want to work on getting a publication. But start emailing them the summer before you transfer so you can really hit the ground running. Just keep them in the back of your head. Emailing PIs, getting research positions really nailed down before you even start at your transfer university. Volunteer early. We kind of already talked about that. And then I'd recommend taking a gap year to give yourselves the most amount of time that you can possibly have just while you're in university. So you're not stressed out, so you're enjoying your experience and you're giving yourself the most amount of time to do well. I think that's incredibly important. In your gap year, you'll have to find some kind of job to do, but you'll have plenty of time to figure out what kind of job you'll find and what you might want to do if you want to do research over that time or whatnot. So you'll have plenty of time to figure that out. But I really do recommend taking a gap year just to give yourself the most amount of time. And a gap year essentially just means that you're going to be applying to medical school at the end of your senior year as opposed to essentially at the end of the junior year, which would mean you're going to have a year when you're not in school. It doesn't sound fun, and depending on what you do in that year, it can or it can't be. But I think it's the best option for most people at this point. But yeah, so that's going to conclude this video that I did not expect to be this long. If you have any questions, you can leave it in the comments. It was nice talking to you all. Have a good day.